Since COVID 2020, we have had just COVID, the war in Ukraine, the inflation, the increase in interest rates, we have the tariffs, and we now have the war in Iran. So we have an unprecedented amount of geopolitical events that make our lives much more complicated. And the approach now needs to be strategic because you can very easily misunderstand the moment.
Hello, I'm Diego. I'm here in Madrid with José Carlos from Barings. José, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
José, before we start, can you please give us a brief introduction about your background and Barings' activity here across Southern Europe, please?
Yes, sure. So I have 22 years of experience in real estate. Out of those, 12 have been in the buy side, either in different investment houses, whether local or pan-European. I've been at Redefco, I've been at Hines, on senior investment roles, and I've been country manager for Barings for Spain and Portugal since late 2021. So here at Barings, we've got at the European level, got a set of different discretionary pockets, whether it's the balance sheet of our mother company, MassMutual, that we belong to, or it's our flagship core fund, who has in excess of 3 billion of AUM in Europe and a significant dry powder to invest in Europe these days, or our value fund series. So the three of them invest on a pan-European basis, almost on every kind of asset class, most preferred asset class that's turning into living. Actually, here in Spain, we've got a diversified portfolio. We've got offices, we've got retail, specifically supermarkets, we've got logistics, either stabilized or under development. And very recently, we increased our footprint in residential living overall significantly. And this is what we have been doing mostly over the last 24 months.
Amazing. Let's talk a little bit about macroeconomics. With the era of easy money over and the ongoing geopolitical volatility, how are you navigating those macroeconomic uncertainty?
That's a very good question. And in fact, the market has shifted so much. If we look back, we had a full decade, almost from 2010 to 2020, of a growing market with very cheap money. That's over. And since COVID 2020, we have had just COVID, but the war in Ukraine, the inflation, the increase in interest rates, we have the tariffs, and we now have the war in Iran. So we have an unprecedented amount of geopolitical events that make our lives much more complicated. How do we navigate that uncertainty? It's by being very solid in the way we approach the markets. And the approach now needs to be strategic because you can very easily misunderstand the moment. So what does that mean? It means shifting into those investment theses that are future-proof. Everybody talks about that. So it's very easy to identify those theses, but it's much more difficult to deploy effectively money into long-lasting strategies that fit into those theses. This is what we have managed to do. So for instance, in the living spectrum, we are setting JVs with specific partners who are very skilled on those asset classes that we like, whether that is built to sell or built to rent, or could be PBSA. This is the asset classes that we like. There's a lot of competition. So the advantage is finding the way to deploy in the most efficient way possible.
You mentioned few residential asset classes. How do you balance those in your portfolio from the traditional resi and mixing with some student, senior housing maybe, senior living?
So the way we see the market here in Spain is that the opportunity for living overall is here to stay for long. The thing is that we have been patient to find the right way to invest into those asset classes. We have been doing more build to sell than anything else, especially because of the shift and the hike in interest rates that made build to rent not that profitable compared to build to sell. Having said that, very recently, we are also deploying money in build to rent affordable housing, which is a slightly different way to jump into build to rent. And there are components that we like more than traditional build to rent. And most recently, we have secured 2 PBSA schemes in Madrid. It's not that we didn't like PBSA before, it's that we find the right opportunities now. So we are patient with that. Although the opportunity was there 2-3 years ago, we just didn't find the right place to put our money in. Now we're finding those opportunities. We're gaining experience. We're in the moment to create a PBSA portfolio too. But up to now, our PBSA share is lower than the build to rent and build to sell share within our Spanish portfolio.
You just mentioned about JVs. You are Spanish, based here in Madrid. Of course, you know the local market really well. But what value a JV bring to the table, and which characteristics you look on your partner when you decided to close a deal or to partnership with them?
The JV brings experience to the table, brings execution capabilities, brings sourcing capabilities. Does that mean that we don't have those capabilities in-house? Not really. We have done direct sourcing, execution, and development in-house. But on specific asset classes, it just makes more sense to partner with somebody that has a bigger footprint and bigger experience than you. The most important thing is that you properly align interest between the two parties. Trust, confidence. Everybody talks about that, but at the end of the day, it's truly the most important thing. When you identify those partners that they are really pushing to get every fee from day one, this is not like the kind of partner that we like. We like long-lasting relations. And the truth is that with our JV partners, we have been working for years for a reason.
Great. What is there is any specific characteristic that you look to on those partners?
Yeah, it could.
A part of the trust, as you said, that
it could really depend. So actually, for instance, in the build to sell segment, and in Spain we have a supply demand imbalance that is massive this day, and it's growing. I mean, it's getting bigger. That gap is getting bigger for 100,000 units every year. So the opportunity, it's very clear. Everybody understands that. So what becomes more crucial, it's identifying the pipeline and executing in time and in budget. So we identified one specific partner that is very good doing that, has a 30-year track record doing exactly that, and has exactly the same view on residential, that the view that we want. We have interviewed almost everybody in the market until we signed an agreement with these people. They've got another JV to do logistics in Portugal. It was our first deal in Portugal. We normally don't do JVs for logistics, but in a new market, it makes sense to go hand by hand with somebody else. And that has been the case. So different reasons depending on the risks and the threats of each opportunity, essentially.
Great. I was in Frankfurt yesterday in our conference there, and the market there is a little bit complicated. They said that the fundamentals are not there, the growth is not there, and they mentioned Spain a few times on the conversation. A part of the sunshine, what is the fundamentals that you have here now that is bringing so much attention from international investors?
Okay, so that can be a very short or very long answer. I try to keep it simple. I think the first thing, as human beings, we make assessments in comparison to something. The thing with Spain is that it's doing something amazing. No, it's just doing better than other core markets in Europe. That's the first thing. We've got a higher unemployment rate than Germany, for instance. But on a relative basis, our GDP growth looks better. That's basically based on the fact that other countries, and I don't want to focus on Germany specifically, they've got a few challenges that are putting into question the model as a country. That's clearly the case in Germany with the energy and manufacturing business model that has a lot of difficult ingredients. The fact that Spain business model as a country is more related to services rather than industry, in this case is an advantage because offshoring is not affecting Spain as it's affecting the north of Italy, for instance, or Germany or France. At the same time, it has become crucial what energy set you have as a country. And the reality is that Spain is very well balanced. More than 55% of our energy is coming from green energy that we produce locally. I've just discovered that, for instance, for fuel planes, we are a net exporter rather than an importer. So we don't produce petrol, but we produced refined fuel for planes, which is critical for our tourism industry. And the reality is that tourism in sun, and back to your point, sun's still very important for us. In a very simple way, and a more elaborated answer is that we have managed to create a very competitive industry that is far away from the conflicts, has the right infrastructure, and it's predictable and resilient.
Great. Talk about future. Given the evolution of the capital markets, ESG, a digital transformation, how do you see the role of the asset manager changing in the next decade?
Well, massively. First thing, asset manager needs to be much more financial than ever. If you look back to the profile of asset managers 1 or 2 decades ago, they were normally leasing managers reconverted into something else. I see this has changed dramatically. Technical skills are critical. They need to be extremely flexible. They need to adapt to the market. Just think about when I started in this industry, essentially, we've got as investable asset classes, offices, retail, few guys investing in logistics, few guys investing in hotels. These days, just only in retail, we've got shopping centers, retail parks, we've got high street, we've got grocery as a specific asset class, big boxes, F&B is another investable asset class. And it's exactly the same with living and over and so on, so on. So that means that you need to be very, very close to the trends in the market. You need to be very flexible, innovative, and not just staying at your office and waiting for things to happen. You need to make things happen to be really at the edge of what's happening in the market.
Thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure to be with you.